Hello and welcome back to Back 10 from All Out Rugby League, powered by Smart Energy GB, the leading smart meter rollout across Great Britain. With a smart meter, you can tackle your energy use head on and find smarter ways to save at home. If there's one word that can describe today's guest, I would say it's probably, there's lots of words to describe him really, but loyal. He is a one club man. He is, of course, former St Helens captain, record all-time appearances for the club as well. Great Britain and England international, James Roby. Robes, welcome along. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
And of course, we are joined by Matt Short, the game's leading journalist as well. Don't forget, we love to hear from you. We need all those comments coming in. And during that time, when you are typing away, make sure you swipe left, hit that hype button. You get 3 chances to hit the hype button across all our shows here at Back 10 and All Out Rugby League. And that will help us reach much, much wider audiences so we can carry on, bringing you content that we know you love. So, James Roby, I may give you a soft little intro there, but here we go. 6 Super League titles, 8 League Leaders Shields, 4 Challenge Cups, 2 World Club titles, Man of Steel in there as well. A bit greedy that, Robes, isn't it? What do you reckon?
Yeah, I was fortunate when I had a decent stint.
No, well, look, it's great to have James alongside. We're going to touch on his career at St Helens and, of course, his time during Great Britain and England internationals as well. So, let's get into the show. So, Robes, there I mentioned about those 551 games.
Wasn't counting.
He wasn't counting, no. 551 games. Incredible, really, if you think about it. You hung up the boots, and obviously you joined Paul Wellens as part of the coaching staff. A couple of weeks ago, you left that role as culture and performance coach. It must have been difficult. 20 odd years at the club, so many highs, maybe a couple of lows in there. We'll find out as we go through this, but must have been a difficult decision.
Yeah, it was obviously a decision I didn't take lightly. I've been at the club for so long, my whole adult life, if you like, from being a teenager really. So yeah, it was just time for a new challenge and a new change for me and my family really. The people are great, the environment's great. I was comfortable at St Helens, and I'll always be a St Helens lad, and supporter for the rest of my life. But yeah, I just felt that the time was right for a change, and I just kind of had this feeling where I didn't want to just be known as he was a decent rugby player, and then not much else, if you know what I mean. I thought I need to achieve, I need to succeed, I need to sort of maybe take a step away to learn, to grow, to evolve in another environment, and whether that be in sport or in business or potentially setting up my own business. I'm just kind of ready for a little bit of a change, and I think the time is right. It'll do me some good.
Well, look, your exit departure from the club came a week after Paul Wellens was ultimately sacked by the club. Is that anything to, the timing of it, or was it something that you'd already made your mind up a while ago?
Yeah, that had nothing to do with the Paul Wellens thing. I'd made my decision earlier on in the season, a few months before. I'd informed the club, and to be honest, the club were great. They'd asked me, did we want to put something out, and I just said, I'm not too fussed, to be honest. Let's just wait till the end of the year. So yeah, the timing wasn't perfect with the Paul Wellens, news coming out, and people have sort of jumped to some conclusions. But no, this is a decision off my own bat that I made a long time ago.
Well, look, Matt, 1,000 games between Wello and Robes. What kind of a void do you think that could maybe have on a club like St Helens?
Well, it's irreplaceable, really, isn't it? I think in teams, you can lose players that are irreplaceable, and both of them were at the respective periods they retired. But I think within organisation, it goes beyond rugby. It's just business, isn't it? You lose certain people who are that well ingrained and that important to the standards and the culture. It's very hard to replace them. I think what it does signal is a change or a new era at Saints. New people going in there who aren't, Paul really has no association to that club whatsoever. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's different. and it'll make things different there, how it works out. I mean, I'm fascinated by that appointment. We've not spoken about it really because we've not had time, but it's different. It's different, and it'll be interesting to see how St Helens from here evolve and try and keep the DNA and the culture that they've had and have been helped to maintain by the two guys that are going out the door.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, obviously we'll get into Paul Rowley and his journey probably at a later show, but sport moves on very quickly, Robs, as we both know, out with the old and in with the new, and we'll see what happens for Saints in 2026. Yeah, I mentioned there, obviously, the 1,000 games between you and Wello. What do you think's been your favourite memory? As if you could have one moment as a St Helens player, it must be very difficult, but which moment would it be?
Yeah, it is very difficult because, I've been fortunate enough to be part of sort of many successful teams. But yeah, it might sound a bit cliche, but I'd probably say going over to Penrith and beating them in that World Club Challenge. Because it was the back end of my career. I knew it was my final season. I'd already sort of done one more year and then one more year again a couple of times. And I was really, body was struggling at that point. But to go over there and to do that off the back of winning 4 in a row as well, it was just a great period of success for the club. And yeah, to go and do that and be lucky enough to lift that trophy as captain and celebrate with, plenty of St Helens fans who'd made the trip over there and stuff. It was a great, few weeks in Australia that I'll never forget. And the memories will stay with me for life. And, that'll always be sort of a cherished memory that, I'd say that was probably the pinnacle of my career.
Well, without doubt, it completes everything that you did as a captain, isn't it? I don't think there's been another captain in the history of the game that's probably had as much success as, in terms of when you think about titles, Challenge Cups, under one captain, World Club Challenges. Be very difficult to sort of think who did it, especially with the 4 in a row that the club did as well. You mentioned there, Matt, one of the early questions in Robes' career, particularly towards the back end, you usually get to around April time and everyone's saying, "Oh, he's still playing so well. Are you going to go around again?" But Robes used to count the games down. So, if you were at round if you were at round 17, he'd be like, "Oh, there's only 10 games left to go here," and then we used to joke saying somehow his battery would get another phone charge, he'd sign a new deal and he'd go again. But how difficult was that for you, Robes? Because look, me and you know each other well enough now that you talk a bit about your body being a bit sore and you didn't want your standards to drop in terms of on the field. How difficult was it? Because it was a question that you had quite, those last few years, you just kept going around again and again and again. Yeah,
it's very hard to step away when we're winning, wasn't it? I suppose that's the period of success, and like you say, I get to go to Old Trafford and lift a trophy, and then I go, can't step away now. Come on, we'll do it again. And I think I really the closest I've probably come to retirement was back in 2019, where I had a bit of a groin injury, and bit of a long story, but. We managed to get to the end of it, but I thought that was me done. I was pretty much ready for retiring at the end of 2019. Luckily, the surgery sorted me out, which then, made me do that. One more again and again. And yeah, I think I really realised that, I've got to sort of enjoy this while it lasts. I understand I'm coming to the end. I understand I'm not going to have much time left, but I was also aware of the the appearance record of the Super League one and the St Helens one as well, and a couple of people had said to me, you can't pass the opportunity to get that because it may never be done before. Do you know what I mean? And back of my mind, I'm a little bit, well, is it that much of a big deal? Will people really remember and all this sort of stuff? But then I'm so glad that I did obviously go for it now. And but yeah, and I love the sort of the mental sort of gritty side of rugby league, and every rugby league player has got that in the locker because they wouldn't make it to this level if they didn't. But when those last couple of years where it was really hard, and even just getting in out the car and in out of bed and stuff like that, there's many players who do the same, but. It became a bit of a daily battle, and it was almost a battle against myself, really, and I loved every minute of it.
Well, I'm so glad that you decided not to retire in 2019 because as a player who'd been in there at the club at that moment in time, without James Roby, I think it would have been very difficult for us to enjoy the success we did. And
there are a lot of people who want to find that surgeon.
Oh yes,
I want to curse him now for fixing it.
I say that, Matt, because Robes as a captain, you weren't one that stands, shouts orders, barks orders. What do you think your biggest asset was in terms of being a skipper? I know what it was, but I'd love to hear from you.
I suppose it didn't come naturally to me to be that type of person who was constantly on everybody's back, and I think you've got to be authentic as a leader more than anything. And I always thought that if I can try and lead by example in terms of standard and definitely effort areas and stuff like that, then it sets a bit of a tone. And I think it's obviously worked in my favour because I'm lucky that I've played for a long time, sort of thing, and that sort of hierarchy or age sort of got me a bit of respect, if you like. Obviously, with what I'm doing on the field as well, I'd like to think, but it almost set an example where I was doing it, but we had such a great team. Through that period, when I think back, the core of that team, we had such a stable group of leaders who did the right thing day in, day out, and this great teams led by many, and it definitely wasn't me off my own back, and it just became a non-negotiable that that those sort of 8 senior players, whatever it may be, are operating and turning up every day, doing the same level, giving the ultimate effort, doing the right things, and it just setting a bit of an example, and it became contagious throughout the team, really. And then everybody sort of raised the game. We had, we brought players in, players left, and we still experienced success. I think at that time you've got to sort of, while the machine's running at full tilt, if you like, and everything's falling our way, you've got to take advantage of that. And I think that was a very sort of sweet spot for us as a club, and obviously us as players as well. And you've got to factor in the staff as well, and the coaching staff especially, in how they made us play. And like you say, you've got Justin Holbrook and Christian Wolf were the coaches, and then obviously Paul Wellens when we did the World Cup Challenge. So it was just a bit of everything. I'd like to think of lead by example. I wouldn't ask anybody to do something that I wouldn't kind of do myself, and just not overcomplicate it as well. Just try and be a decent person. I think leadership in general, there's a million sorts of books, quotes and analogies, and it's very situational, and it's very it depends on the person, it depends on the situation and the people who you're dealing with. But at the end of the day, if you can sort of be a good person that people trust and respect, you can't go far wrong.
It's pretty good to hear that, really, because everything that Robes has said there, look, I was fortunate enough to see it for nearly 10 years, and he certainly did. One of the things that was, you came to St Helens, and when you've got, the guy who's played the most record games, and all the success that's come his way, and to still be wanting to win all the fitness tests and set the bar, that it ripples right throughout the club, whether you're a young kid coming in and you're seeing what he's doing, or you're a lad mid-career and you want to be part of success. Let me tell you, you wouldn't have gone far wrong looking at how he handled and operated himself. So
where were you in all these fitness?
Robes, you want to jump in on that one? I tried my best, Matt. I tried my best.
You're fit for a big lad.
Yes. I like to think that kept me going for a little bit longer than most would have liked or desired to as well. But anyhow, it's not about me, it's about Robes. So we'll move on. Robes, your worst memory then. Okay, we talked about your best memory. What's your worst memory in the Red V?
Worst memory? I'd probably say losing that 5th grand final in a row. Obviously, so you got to remember 2006, we romped it, we won everything. Everything was going our way. It was just, great times on and off the field. And then we go into 2007, again, win Challenge Cup, win League Leaders, I think, straight back into another grand final. Almost kind of just took it for granted it was going to happen again. And obviously we got beat, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. So 5 grand finals in a row, mate. It was, each one gets kind of worse than the one before it, and the pressure builds and the doubt builds and that monkey on your back. And I always remember, obviously, we obviously lost that one, and then when we fast forward a few years to 2014 and we win it against Wigan, and you got the iconic Wello banging his chest. And I remember me and Wello just sort of grabbing each other after that, and we had a bit of an embrace, a bit of a moment, if you like, because it was more relief than anything. It was more relief than joy, which sounds mad, but it was just such relief. And yeah, like I say, I think watching each of those opposition teams, I think it was Leeds 3 or 4 times and then Wigan once. out of them 5 losses that we had, and watching them, out of respect, obviously watching them lift the trophy, but also trying to watch it as a bit of motivation, feel as if not letting this happen again. And it did.
There's only so many times before you can go, Jesus, this is never going to happen, right?
Yeah, so that probably learnt me some good lessons about failure as well.
Yeah.
A lot of, it's obviously a lot of people speak about it now, but, I used to think failure was the complete opposite to success, and it's not. It's a major part of success.
Yeah.
Do you think there were mental block back then? Or is that just an easy thing to say? Because that's what everyone said at the time, right? Once it got to 3, it's mentally, it's just a hurdle they can't overcome. It's easy to say, but was there some legitimacy in that?
Yeah, well, there's legitimate, because you can't lie, and obviously going into grand final 3 or 4 or 5, you've got a little element of doubt, or are we cursed, sort of thing. It's is it going to be another one of those nights? And if we don't do this, and like I said earlier about the emotion about playing. International and things like that. You can't measure how much that takes out of you and how much it weighs on people's minds. And you'll know more than me, Kyle, as well, that certain people going into games, some lads are going in, they're quite relaxed, what will be, will be. Other lads are stressing about every minute detail, and, if something goes wrong in their preparation, it can kind of knock them off kilter. But yeah, I do remember in those times thinking, even... I think it was Kev Sinfield obviously used to kick us to death, basically, at Old Trafford, the wet weather rugby. And I remember one time going to Trafford and it's raining, and I'm like, rolling my eyes thinking, we might be in a bit of trouble here. But so there's definitely a psychological aspect that you can't really put your finger on.
Rob, just before we move on, I just want to talk about, you come into this Saints team and as a young kid, and you end up tasting success pretty early on. And then you go through 12 years, maybe 13 years before you see another title or trophy come your way. What's that like then? What's it like jumping into that 06 sort of era and then having to be so quiet and then get all the success at the back end? Has it made the whole journey better?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. Like I say, I generally look back now and I can reflect on my career. It's been bookended really with, a bit of success at the start there. Yeah. You won the treble in 2006, beat Brisbane in a World Cup Challenge early 2007, carried on, won 3 Challenge Cups in a row as well at that point. So it was just great times, obviously at the same time as getting to grand finals. And then we did have a little bit of a dry spell, if you like, till 2014 really is the next grand final win.
Yeah.
And then again, you fast forward from 2014 to 2019 when we won the first of the 4 Super League titles. So yeah, it's sort of a bit of success at the end and there's one in the middle. And it's definitely, it teaches you can't take anything for granted. You know what I mean? Every year is a privilege that you get to play, and you've got to make the most of it, and you've got to really buy in. And I suppose it's probably just taught me of things around, going into building teams and what goes into that, and the people involved, and what makes an organisation successful. But there's many factors and different eras. But I'm very grateful that I experienced it as a young lad and also as a mature player.
You talked about that one in the middle, 2014. Even I forgot about that one. I bloody played in the things. But look, 2006, a special year for you. Of course, we are very much Ashes themed here at Back 10, given what's on the horizon for Game 2. 2006, you tasted victory in Sydney. What are your memories of that?
Yeah, I remember, obviously, 2006 tour, I was... So I got picked, Brian Noble was the coach, to go down under in a Tri-Nation series, and I was the baby of the group. I was 20 years old, and there was a lot of big personalities back then. But yeah, nothing but great memories of that tour. Obviously, we went over there, we did all right. Obviously, we beat Australia, which was a fantastic night. And we've got all the other stuff, the Leon Price, but I've been Blackpool and Bondi and all that sort of stuff. We was talking about it the other day, actually, and so it was a great time. It was a great experience as well to go and sort of travel around Australia, playing these sort of iconic venues against iconic teams with the proper Great Britain team. Do you know what I mean? That was probably my first realisation, like, I've got a good chance of making a really good career out of this sort of thing as an international player, not only a club player. So yeah, it was fantastic memories, and going over there and beating them, and that was obviously the same time when they had the fight, wasn't it? Fielding and Willie Mason and all them, and so it all just added to it. And the Aussie press, they're so aggressive, they're trying to catch you out all the time. It was eye opening for me to experience that for the first time. But nothing but great memories.
Which is why, Matt, we need this to be 1-1. Don't we?
Of course we do.
We need that. We need the hatred of Aussies just trying to pull and pick apart everything, heading into big games, and it would be mega, wouldn't it? If they could find a way at Everton, it would be huge.
It would. And even that tour, like we all remember the first one, but then and Sean Long had one of the great games, individual performances, but after that it all went wrong for Lloyd, didn't it? Like the game after he had a shocker, and then did he get booted out of the...
He left, didn't he?
Yeah, because he'd had a few beers. It's just Lonnie, isn't it? But you know what I mean? It's like, but people forget that part of the story. It gets untold quite a lot. And I always think we speak about that first game so much, but there was some crazy, you hear him in retrospect, some crazy stories from the rest of that tour, weren't there, where that don't get told as much, where it wasn't quite as pretty and glamorous.
Well, yeah, we're talking 20 odd years ago. 20 years ago.
Yeah, of course it was.
19 years ago. But yeah, it was different times back then, and sort of a little bit of a different attitude. But nonetheless, it was great to be a part of.
Well, look, Robs, 36 appearances for England, playing in 2013 and the 2017, of course, the World Cup final. Had it not been for Dugan's ankle tap on Callum Watkins, we might be sat here with Sir James Roby, Matt. But it wasn't meant to be. Look, what are your memories as well from that from that World Cup final? You were talking about heading into the biggest game this Saturday. And I remember watching that World Cup final, and there was giants of the modern game there, weren't they? You know, Sam Burgess, James Graham, Sean O'Loughlin, Ryan Hall. You know, you must have felt uber confident sat in that changing room heading into that final.
Yeah, I think remembering that 2017, it was a great tour again. Really, really enjoyed that tour with the lads, great bunch of lads and staff. And we did well. Wayne Bennett, obviously the coach, and we got to the final. And we backed ourselves as well, you know what I mean? That's exactly what our lads need to do this week. And we got stuck into the Aussies. It was a tight game, wasn't much going on. And, I think any sort of international game, you finish at 6-0. It's been a sort of bruising encounter. Yeah. And I do remember that was probably one of the hardest games I've ever played in my life in terms of, just this ferocious speed and physicality of it. But yeah, it was the 2017 World Cup in general was a fantastic experience, and I'm probably going off subject a little bit, but I remember we played Tonga in the semi-final to get to the final. I think they scored a try at the end, which was a little bit contentious, or there was some sort of decision. It went our way anyway, so I'm not bothered. But honestly, that semi-final playing Tonga, it was in New Zealand, was the best atmosphere I have ever played in my life. I swear, it was just full of Tongan fans. There was a sea of red, and they were singing hymns non-stop. It was almost being like in some sort of church. It was just weird but wonderful at the same time.
It looked that way as well on the pictures, sat at home watching it. So goodness me, to play it must have been incredible. Robes, you end up over the next 15 years, you make 6 more appearances for the Great Britain Lions. Does it matter to a player whether it's England or it's the Lions?
Me personally, I'd prefer it to be Great Britain. Maybe that's just because I've grew up with Great Britain. When I was a child, I remember watching, obviously, Great Britain playing against Australia, sort of the iconic jersey, that sort of stuff. And when it did move to England, I understand, they're trying to, get more teams maybe, and obviously, separate people, give more the chance to play for the country, if you like, in Scotland and Ireland and Wales and stuff. So I've got nothing against it, but for me personally, if I was to choose, I'd rather, represent Great Britain.
Okay, so look, Saturday, 1-0 down. You're Sean Wayne or Sam Tompkins or Lee Breers, or you're part of the coaching staff. You sat there. What is as a guy that's been there, done it, wore the jumper, played in big games, played against Australia? What's your advice to this group?
Advice as well. I know. I've never really worked with Sean Wayne, but I know he's obviously he'll be getting the lads motivated, no doubt. I think, obviously the lessons they've got to learn from the first game is finish the sets better. We've got to do the simple things well under pressure. Basics matter, discipline matters. And, we've got to do a job on their key men. And, we wasn't far off. I think, we've got to be relentless with the effort, which we pretty much was, but we've got to be ruthless with the detail. And I think that's probably the key improvement area for us.
Well, look, we look forward to seeing how that unfolds. Guys at home, please do let us know in your comments anything about what we've discussed, whether it's through Robes' career or England or Great Britain. Which would you like to see as we move forward throughout the rest of the up-and-coming seasons ahead of what's left in Rugby League? So that's full time on this episode at Back 10 from All Out Rugby League, powered by Smart Energy GB, the team helping households across Great Britain take control of their energy use with smart meters. A smart meter lets you see how much energy you're using so you can save when it matters most. Until next time, thanks to Matt, James Roby, and myself, Kyle Amor. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye for now.